Hey guys, we'll talk about a bunch of different trades. You guys, MLGO, which was a red trade, and then I had CMTL or whatever it was, and GOVX, and that's all I traded. So this was a market up and long that just failed. Um, yeah, kind of a massive liquidation, but interesting reclaim. But yeah, I thought this mark, this did the quick pre-market pop and drop pattern, traded some nice volume. I like that this early rotation failed back into the lows. And I thought the book looked nice, but it turns out, I'm not super good at these kind of liquidation dump plays. I do know we've had one a month ago that did do a similar pre-market pop and dump, but not really my wheelhouse. So I just treated it as a normal trade. Not a whole lot to talk about here. I mean, I'll just show you the book. Thought it looked nice. You know, kind of you had your 930 push. It ate through this $5 bid, had a bunch of bids stacked lower, and then it started reclaiming and restacked the bid. And I thought, there wasn't a whole lot of ask, at least up until here, and maybe it would generate a bunch of volume and push. And then, yeah, it just started selling. And I was looking at this 490 bid, and also, I mean, I was really hoping this $5 bid would hold it, but then pretty much I saw this ask come in, and then this ask came in. And then a 75,000 share ask showed up, but that I was already out of the trade by then. But that is really the whole move. And then I shifted focus to CMTL. So this was nice. Nice little 1 minute 20 EMA long. This was a thicker float EP name. So at earnings, 26 million float. I am usually bullish these names, or at the very least not looking to short. And yeah, I mean, had some nice volume on the push. 2 to 3.9 is pretty extended, but I like the pattern. I like the book. And I was being aggressive on my sells. And I like the fact that it wasn't, a low float stock, right? Um, I did like the fact that essentially just thick float EP, just be long biased, and we got the classic double bounce off of the 1 minute 20. Caught a really nice bid. Caught a nice bid here. Right here. This was the first tap. You could see the walk down, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So nice lower high, like micro walk down, right? Nice 1 minute 20. And yeah, I like the follow up bid here, right where I expected it to be. So, the follow up bid is important because of the structure, right? So, I go here. So here's the 1 minute 20. Here's the mini walk down, really nice. Nice aggressive move. It did have a big knife, but as long as the 1 minute 20 hold, given the volume, a lot of longs you'll have to hold through knives. As long as you think there's room to run, and it doesn't break key support levels, right? So, good amount of people in my room were long this. I was like, well, let's watch a knife, see what the reaction is, and we got a nice and also fake whole dollar resistance. So this stuff right at $4. I was like, oh, I always like that. I always like it when a stock fake stuffs at a whole dollar, $half level, because a lot of times you get a nice little squeeze out of it, right? But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a little extended. It's very up only, up only, up only, up only. So more extended, the more up only it is, often the more aggressive you have to be with your selling. So sells, and then I was just risking VWAP, and I got stopped down on a little VWAP knife. And we we'll talk about this later. I was actually avoiding short. This is actually a good chart for me. There's a good amount of short sellers in my room, in my Discord room, that's been at it a long time, and we just kind of know from a fundamental perspective that we want to avoid applying even though it's trading low flow volatility. The problem isn't necessarily that you can't get good entries, right? Like this was actually really nice on the book right here. We had this like painted 4, 5, 4, 7 level. And this is your classic like hyper aggressive move from support and then the fake 1 minute flag. This is actually a classic little short pattern here. But it wasn't that I thought it wasn't a good entry. I was concerned with how far it was going to fade, right? Because on these thick float, real companies up on good earnings or whatever it was, you never know when the support's going to come in. So it's hard to believe in a 30% low float fade, even though from this entry it actually did fade pretty far. I actually thought it might just fade to the 1 minute 200 and rotate back up, which it kind of did, but it did the support swipe. One thing I want to show, uh, I have this joke pattern in my room that's also not a joke called the happy face pattern. but but it shows a key concept of how we saw this a lot today of how these aggressive sell-offs can produce big rotations later. A lot of times, the more aggressive the sell-off is, the greater the push potential is on the backside. And you see this a lot at market open, for example, NLSP here, right? You get a big up-only push, you get a big down-only knife, it creates this empty air pocket. So, if you're not short up here, I want to push back up to the top of this range at the very least, back towards this high, or maybe even swipe this high. It just depends on the price action in the book. But it's very dangerous to short lower highs. That's too far away, especially when stocks are trading big volume, right? Millions and millions of shares. We saw this with other tickers, MBIO this morning, right? Now, of course, this would have, so again, this is like if you miss the move up here. Again, look how aggressive the sell-off was. I was telling my room on MBIO. I didn't trade MBIO. But I was telling my room, I was like, on a high volume rig stock like MBIO, when you see aggressive, like look how aggressive this selling is. $1 swipe, so straight out of the minute handbook, come down, swipe a key support, retail support level. The aggressiveness of this dump. Also, the time frame is important. Market open produces highly volatile moves, so time frame is important. Same with NLSP, similar idea. You get these hyper aggressive sell-offs. I told him, it's like, I don't believe this is going to go down only at all, right? Still trading millions of shares of volume. It's on a crazy MDR, retail shorts going to want to smack this thing as hard as they can, right? So people get bad averages, and that's what I mean. You want rotations back towards the top. Now, I thought this might have been painting some lower highs and was going to push. Didn't really happen, which is fine. But the question you might have is like, well, can you long off of this? And I always think that too. I was like, if you see an aggressive sell-off, is there some manipulated long entry at the bottom? And it's not always intuitive what that is. I saw the fake VWAP resistance here and here. So I was like, oh, VWAP rotation. We got some 115s, 120s that it can push back into, take out these lower highs. But it's not always easy to know what the entry is. And even if you say you entered on the VWAP, like MBIO yesterday, you enter, and here's on the VWAP reclaim, right? So fake VWAP, and you enter it on the rotation. This is ideal. Essentially, this is what needs to happen. The more, essentially, it needs to go right away, right? Because if it starts to stall, and you start to get grindy higher lows, those higher lows become a target for a dump, right? You kind of need, if you're expecting a high day squeeze on these manipulated entries, you often need instant continuation, because the more higher lows it puts in, and the more it starts stalling at essentially what the long trap would be. So what's the long trap level? The long trap is taking out these lower highs and shorting in the mid to high 120s here, right? So if it starts stalling there and you see a million higher lows, there's always a risk it cracks, right? So especially the more extended it is. The more extended, the more dangerous it is, right? So, but yeah, also same concept over here. Look how aggressive the sell-off is. Super aggressive sell-off makes the rotation potential stronger because of how aggressive the sell-off is. There's a few other tickers today that did the same thing. you know, I actually posted in my Discord. I was like, oh, happy face pattern when this candle got put in. I was like, oh, possible because of how aggressive, right? We got a parabolic. Starts hard fading 30% down only. Look how aggressive the selling is. But with the volume it's trading, you can get, again, the more aggressive the sell-off is, the closer it has to push towards high day. You don't want to be shorting down here. You know, you don't want to be shorting the first lower high. You know, especially like candles like this, man. This candle's way too far away. But people see this. People see the volume. They see the, you know, exhaustion candle, whatever that is, and then it rotates higher, right? And then, but yeah, and then you get a much nicer long trap. Only problem is, again, shares for like 30 cents a share, and then it faded $1.5. So what do I know about reserving shares? And then it's the same thing happened to me yesterday. And then my other trade, which I got, so I didn't trade the rest of the day until I got to the afternoon, and I shorted a nice little intraday pattern on GOVX. So one theme that happened, which we just saw in LRCH and MIBO, is we started getting these long trap pushes towards high a day, right? And actually, we got another one here too, but I didn't want to take this trade just because I was just kind of done for the day. I was going to make this video, and I'm like, GOVX is kind of GOVX is a classic ticker from back in the day. If you don't know GOVX from 2021, 2022, I recommend finding those charts pre-reverse split. But yeah, this is a classic little, you know, aggressive push off of support, clears out the lower highs. And usually this would be too far away from high day. I'd be kind of scared to short 210, 215 on a stock that's highs are 235. But it pulled back for the fake 1 minute flag pattern that retail loves to chase. And most importantly, the book on this was quite ideal, right? So on a lot of long trap pushes, they put up bids lower to initiate the stock, but a lot of times there's a lack of bid follow-up. And not only that, if we zoom in, right on that mini second push, they started pulling these bids, right? And we had new ask come in, right? So swipe that backside level, new ask come in, there's multiple layers above it. I was anticipating, I was like, I'll make a read on the second push because, you know, I was a little, you know, I was like, well, what if it pushes towards 230s or something, or high 220s? I was like, don't want to be too early. But I saw these bids get pulled. I saw these asks come down. I saw it reject and come back down, and yeah, just took that short. And I was like, okay. And then got, you know, not surprised by the dump given the bid pull, right, back down, and then the only other bid is down here, right. And then I haven't shorted an intraday parabolic type of play in a while, but I do know that they are often, the 1 minute 200 is often a really good price target. Everyone knows I cover on the 1 minute 200, but I like to cover it as my final cover on a lot of intraday runners. When I used to short these intraday pops a lot more, especially if volume starts to get thinner at the 1 minute 200, I do like to take some profits. By the way, same concept. Look how aggressive the selling is. Massive selling, these tiny lower highs. You get the rotation. The rotation potential is higher based on how aggressive the selling is to the left, combined with the volume, right? So, you know, you actually had, you know, if you wanted, you could have totally taken, look how aggressive this backside swipe. So it swiped this 216 level. Pull back, fake 1 minute. It's the same fake 1 minute flag. Fake 1 minute flag. Classic retail fake 1 minute flag. And they pull it, and now it's actually fading to the after hours. So maybe I was dumb for not taking it. But yeah, nice little trade at the end there. It was a pretty small green day because of the red trade on MLGO, and this ended up making it a lot nicer. So, but yeah, and I mean, there's a ton of stuff that happened today. Again, after hours and 4 a.m. parabolics tend to be really weak. Same concept, ultra aggressive selling. look at the afternoon rotation on this. Look how high this got. Fake VWAP resistance, swipe the fake. Like, I wasn't trading this at all, but I'm not surprised. The more aggressive the selling is, the more backside squeeze potential there is. And if you want to see like the holy grail of this, which is like was absolutely insane, is GME. GME from, but GME is played on larger time frames, right? It's not like a low float where everything's on the 1 minute and the 5 minute, and you know what I mean? It's like things are happening within a couple hours. But yeah, right? Ultra aggressive selling, aggressive backside squeeze, stuff like that. So be aware. It's a bullish factor, but it doesn't mean it's going to squeeze high today, but it does mean there's an excessive amount of backside liquidity, especially if you combine it with high volume, right? You always want to be cognizant of that, right? The ultra aggressive selling, especially since this is like the first real pullback. If you see this ultra aggressive selling at especially at market open or on anything that's like the first real pullback after big aggressive volume comes in, so it could happen intraday, it could happen pre-market. The liquidity kind of holds because of how people, as long as pre-market post 7 a.m. and stuff like that. So the move starts after 7 a.m. You get a big initial crazy volume move and a heavy down-only pullback. There's always potential for it to rotate back up, and the market heavily punishes people who chase. So there's another example. The ultra aggressiveness makes the rotation stronger. By the way, I tried to get shares here, and Trade Zero would not give me them. And then they made them available at 10.15, and then it was under $1, and I couldn't short it. I was like, oh man, this gets back to the. It's like I've been saying in my videos, like 1m20 rotations, especially if they're ultra aggressive like this. The higher stock goes, the less likely ultra aggressive rotations off the 1m20 are likely to work. So if this was like grindy, I wouldn't like it as much, but the fact that it was so aggressive back above $1, and then I just had to hope it would short trap and rotate, and it went down only 60% from entry. Nice. So anyways, that's it for today. Key concepts. Beware of ultra aggressive selling on super high volume names. Also look at this high day clear out, ultra aggressive selling in a rotation. Oof. as we say, oof. Up halt, push, oof. So yeah, that's it for today. Information down below about the Discord, and see you on Thursday. Have a good one.